St. Joe River Basin Commission, we were created back in the mid-'80s to address water quality concerns at the time in the St. Joe River. We've got 6 counties in northern Indiana that drain to the St. Joe, and we have members, 5 members from each county. But basically the idea is if we're going to get a handle on our water quality or our flooding issues, we're going to have to work collaboratively with each other because we can't solve these problems in just one community. So although our funding and our governance lies entirely on the Indiana side, we were created by the General Assembly of Indiana. We are encouraged in our statute to work with Michigan on issues because they're sending us a whole bunch of water as well. This I always include, we can always use it for reference, comes from the statute. What are we here to do? What are our powers? What's our functions? And the most basic one is we are here to provide a forum for discussion, study, and evaluation of water resources. And these meetings kind of serve as that forum. If you guys got issues in your community that you're dealing with, hopefully by bringing them here, talking about it with our neighbors, we can kind of help get to some solutions. And ideally down the road, if to some extent now, we can be a resource to you with some funding and definitely, if you want to call it lobbying, but working down at the state to help you guys with things you're working on, and federal government as well. It's in our statute to work with state and federal government on issues that affect you guys. So who is you guys? Membership of the River Basin Commission from each of the counties, municipal executives, so the mayor, or in the case of our counties with smaller communities, be the council president, county commissioner from each of the 6 counties, county surveyor, soil water conservation district, and SWCDs. So, you know, we've got diverse, every little hand of local government that's touching water hopefully has representation on this board, and that's the idea behind it. We don't have anybody joining us. We do have an electronic meeting policy. It's been in our statute for a long time. It does require us to do every single action we take. And so in one sense, fortunately today, we don't have anybody joining online, so we don't have to deal with that. But we are live streaming today, so folks may be tuning in who are members, but they don't have the ability to vote unless they've requested access to the meeting. And no one did that, so we're good there. I think one thing to know on this one is we do have, I wouldn't call it a policy. I don't know, just what we call it, custom. Let's say that we've got a custom of when motions are made, trying to have the person who seconds that motion be from a different county than the one who made it. Just kind of shows that there's broader consensus and things aren't being just driven by one county. So if you do make a motion, if you would state what county you're from, and then same thing when you second that motion, when we vote, it's just a regular consensus type voting. So last thing that I would mention on there, what I'd like to do is rather than a formal roll call, I would like to just kind of go around the table. I think we got everybody that's able to sit at the table. So generally, say this, we have the ability, members have the ability to designate a proxy to serve on their behalf. And when we have room, of course, we'd like everybody to be here at the table. So if you are a proxy, make sure that you state who you're serving on behalf of. If you are not on the commission, I know we got a couple folks at the table who are not, at least provide your affiliation, let us know who you are, who you're with, that kind of thing. But if we could start over here on this side of the room, and I'm going to try and check off our sheet here rather than doing a formal roll call.
I'm Gary Deegan, Oakland City Developer, proxy.
Hold on. He snuck in on you, right?
Ray Hoover, I'm a green stack. Bill Barker, Elkhorn County.
Ed Rogers, Elkhorn County Commissioner.
Peter Cook, LaGrange County Commissioner.
Here, just it was Ray County Health Department Street proxy for health officer.
Greg Powers, Oakland County Deputy Surveyor.
Jen Slavon, Skinner County Surveyor.
Jewel Wise, as Gadsden County Soil and Water District Board Member.
Dan Lang, Oakland County Commissioner, Anita Hess, proxy.
On that horse, they do District. Such man. That's today.
Bush Walsh, running on permanent. Chris Thomas and the school coordinator for the city and local representative. Janelle Meyer, student at Soil and Water Conservation District.
Paul Harrison.
Sarah Longenecker, Joseph County Soil and Water Conservation District.
I am Rod Edgel. I'm the Lake River Cancer Biologist for the DNR, and I'm Proxy Coordinator.
Kate Barrett, aquatic ecologist with the St. Joe River Basin Commission and instructor of biology at Holy Cross College.
Kate. My name is Matt Beardman. Normally I introduce myself at the front end. I technically, myself, Kate, Brandon, and Ashley are all employees of Michigan Area Council of Government, and we serve the St. Joe River Basin Commission through a cooperative agreement between the two organizations.
Sure. I'm Brandon. I was here previously as an intern. Now I'm here through the AmeriCorps program.
Ashley.
Ashley has been great on helping us with the minutes and keeping things straight here with the meetings for me. So appreciate the support that I get from the Maycock staff. We have other jobs that, Brandon, Kate, and I are mostly focused on river stuff, but Ashley's got a lot of irons in the fire. So appreciate her being here with us today. Okay, that's all I've got, Chair.
Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. And just a reminder that anyone who request that key items on the consent agenda removed for a separate vote, they will be so. Approval of minutes from the June 2nd, 2022 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections?
I sent these around via email. Special thanks to Ashley on these last meeting minutes. We had some technical difficulties with our live stream recording, so she had planned our notes a little more than usual, I think, and I thought she did a great job. Has anybody caught anything?
Okay.
Right.
We'll move on to the financial report.
Yeah, so I sent around 3 different statements for you guys. This is we always report quarter in the rear. Couple of things to note that call your attention to. I've got notes on it, but the general fund, we did get a little bit more money from the state than we were expecting, and that was really the result of the reserve amount being lowered, which is a good thing. We saved a little money on our accounting services. I've been handling a lot of the financial statement stuff, and then just that we were able to save a little money on additional staff support, just due to the efficiency of Brandon, Kate, and Ashley. So, does anybody have any questions about that statement of activities? No? Okay, I'll move on to the next one, which is basically like our balance sheet. It's the list of assets. Always call the attention to the total fund balance. That's basically the amount of money in our bank account or in our check register. I also included the bank statement because sometimes those won't match when you've got unclear checks, and that was the case this time around. But that $335,360 is what we've got in the way of our total fund balance. We do have the typical accounts payable, which are for Maycock services from the last quarter. Do I have anything else on that one? Any questions about the balance sheet? All right, I'll move on to the last one of the financial statements, and that's the cash statement. Unlike the other two, this one is on a cash basis. So sometimes things will be a little strange here. And in particular, I'll give you 2 examples. State of Indiana, you'll notice we show $126,000 in income on the cash statement. And if you went back to the activities, we only show $103,000. That's because we invoiced them for some funds last fiscal year, and they didn't pay us until this fiscal year. So the other ones are accrual, this is cash, shows that we picked that up. So, and it's the same thing for the city of Kendallville. If you look on there, they show close to $5,000 of income from Kendallville. That's actually 2 years worth of appropriations. So you'll notice, you can see all the community members have paid in on there. So we had a really good year in terms of our local support. And then of course you can see on the lower end, pretty much every check that went out, all the outflow is listed on here. Does anybody have any questions about the cash statement? Okay. That's all I've got for the financial report. Claims, yeah. So I included in your packet all of the invoices for this quarter. They include, Maycog services from the last quarter, and then, some funds that went out, but most of all were approved at the last meeting, the MS4 program support for City of Kendallville. We got another invoice for our web development that Kate will be talking about, and our water level monitors, finally got those ordered, and they've come in since then. So a couple of items on there that were approved at the last meeting. That's all I've got in the way of notes. I include all the invoices. I don't know if anybody has any questions about any of the claims. I think that's all I've got for the consent agenda items, unless somebody has any questions.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll be second. Okay, first and second, those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries to approve the consent agenda. We'll move on to the end business. Existing projects and updates.
All right, thanks, Chris. So old business, we cover a lot of our special projects, and I always like to note that these things are only possible because of the money we receive from you guys. We're able to use the state funding to fund these special projects because we can cover our basic operations with the local support we get. The wetland task force was something that was created out of Senate Bill 389 last year, and the St. Joe River Basin Commission got a seat on there, and I was appointed to be the representative. There's about maybe 10 of us on the task force. We've had 4 meetings now. We have our 5th and final meeting in 2 weeks, where we will hopefully be approving the final report that's been generated. Each of the members was kind of tasked with submitting suggestions for different components of it. At the last meeting, I kind of listed out the high priority items that we were supposed to be researching, but these are things like the 2 that I worked on was finding ways to create incentives for avoidance of wetlands during new development, and then how do we find any incentives for preserving existing wetlands. And so I submitted some comments on that. We'll see what ends up making it in the final report. But a big part of what the task force, I think the recommendations are going to come out, is going to be around improving consistency between our state wetland program and the federal wetland program that's administered from Army Corps of Engineers. We do have sort of different goals a little bit, so it's proving to be more challenging than I think it initially was. And I think the state, its wetland program from its inception, its purpose was always to go above and beyond federal protections, but in particular to protect special habitats. I think there was this recognition that the federal program doesn't cover a lot of small, isolated wetlands. That's what they're referred to as isolated, but they don't have a direct connection to a flowing water body. But some of these have really high ecological value. And so the state wanted to make sure these things weren't lost, and that was the purpose for the initial program. Whereas the federal program, administered from Army Corps, but driven by EPA, tends to look more highly at like functional value, I think, and so that direct connection is more important on the federal level, and a lot of things develop. What a lot of the members of the task force, including myself, are trying to push is that these isolated ones, although many of them are really important for habitat and they have rare species and all that kind of thing, even the ones that are filled with Phragmites help with flood control. And so we do have a functional value of a lot of these small isolated ones that give cause to even protect them. Now, they are the ones that in Senate Bill 389, they lost a lot of protection. Basically, Indiana has wetland classes, and their classes are basically around ecology and habitat. And so class 1 is sort of considered lower value because it doesn't have, it's full of invasive species is what they'll call them. So they rank it lower, and then they lost a lot of their protection when 389 was passed. So the task force recommendations are like, yeah, they may be less valuable from a habitat standpoint, but they're still really important for flooding in our community. So we're pushing back on that. I mentioned the comments that I gave. You've heard me talk in these meetings before. In fact, one of the items later, one of the ways I believe we can create incentives for the preservation of existing wetlands, and what I submitted was When we do our apportionment of benefit for drainage maintenance fees, recognizing land cover and land use when we come to creating the cost, how much people have to pay. So basically, there would be a financial incentive if you kept the wetland on your property because you're paying a lot less, or maybe possibly even nothing per acre for your wetland acres compared to your tillable acres. So that's one of the recommendations I made. And then the other thing was more around trying to help with education and encouragement. I mean, it's a local issue, so it's hard to know what the state can do about this, but if local planning and zoning can provide some kind of density bonuses for new development when wetlands are avoided. So, you know, the fact is a new developer gets a parcel of land, it's got a wetland on it. A lot of times in order to make it profitable, they have to split it up into as many lots as they can, which includes that wetland piece. If we give them some kind of density bonus, if they stay out of the wetland, allow them to put more units clustered up in a small corner of it or something, that could be an incentive to help avoid them during development. So those are the two comments that I submitted. We're supposed to get our draft report to review next week. If any of you are interested in seeing that, let me know, reach out to me, happy to share it with you. That way I can bring your comments down to the task force meeting in 2 weeks. So that's all I've got on that. Any questions on wetland task force?
And do you know what the next step is after, like, is there gonna be like talking to legislators about policy or new bills from this or, you know?
Or is it gonna go on a shelf like us? Yeah, it's possible, and that's gonna be, I think, on the work of the task force members, but really a lot of our partners out there. I think the best thing would be, ideally and theoretically, what's supposed to happen is this report is generated for the legislators. They read it and it advises them on what kind of changes they might make. This was a weird, backwards thing from the standpoint, they already changed the law. So there'd have to be a new bill submitted to change it again based on our recommendations. There's sort of everybody felt that's what should have been done first, and then they changed the law, but it didn't work that way. I think the best case scenario is that it provides something for conservation partners, local governments to hold up to their legislator and say, hey, this was a task force commissioned by you, and this is what they said. We need to get our state laws in line with that. So I think it's going to rely on the advocacy of groups like ourselves to sort of lean on it and refer to it. And, you know, that's probably the best we can hope for. There's no requirement that anything be done with it. So. Any other questions on that? I included on the slide, I had it on there last quarter, that Audubon did a really cool survey. They used a polling firm that's pretty well respected in the state, and you know, the support from the public for keeping state wetland laws strong is incredible. It's like overwhelming. So it's interesting. There's no question that the bill to reduce the protections was brought by the Developers Association. They were the main driver of it. And what was interesting, they got a seat on the task force, and their representative has not showed up at even one of our meetings. So that is pretty disappointing, that not having that voice in the room is kind of strange. All right, anything else on this? All right. I don't know that Chair knows what the next, oh yeah, member partner support. I think I did list it. Sorry, I didn't know what you had and what I had on my slide. A couple items under member and partner support. If you look on that, you know, the financial statements match our budget. We've got underneath special projects are a number of different line items that we try to, you know, work through. And one of them is pretty generic, member and partner support. We've done a number of different things. I mentioned we approved at the last meeting some support from the city of Kendallville for their MS4 educational programs. They did a big kids day. Sue McGee was going to be here today. She sent a really nice thank you letter to the commission, to all of you for helping support our program, gave some of the results. But I guess they had, there was an article in the Kendallville News Sun about the event that they did, and it was well attended, and it was cool. One of the quotes in the article was talking about how it was really great to see how the water infiltrates into the land. So they had a couple different little booths set up, and it seemed like it was a good thing. So Sue wanted to make sure you all know that she's sorry she couldn't be here, and she really appreciates the support that we provided on that. One of the other ones, we talked about this at the last meeting, and I just talked to Jim, before the meeting from Steuben County. We have, engaged Christopher Burke Engineering to help us with a stormwater drainage audit for Steuben County, kind of looking at policies and how they could fund some of the things that are in these policies, like the idea that every new development plan is going to be reviewed by somebody for what the impact is on drainage and stormwater. But there's no mechanism for funding a person to do that. And so how are other communities handling that? And then the end result will be some recommendations for the county in terms of how to handle it, sort of have these things coordinated, because right now, it's exciting. There's a lot of new development going on in Steuben County, as I understand it, but the drains are just receiving all this new water, and that's creating a high burden, and drains are old, the infrastructure's old, there's not really a good way for funding the or at least accounting for new development and what its impact is on drains. So we're working with Steuben County on that. I had one meeting with Burke, and we're hoping to get over into Steuben County in the next quarter. Anybody have any questions about either of those? Jim, I don't know, but we're working on it. All right, the last one I want to mention is some work we're doing with Senior. Kind of saw, actually we've had 2 new members join since we did roll call. Maybe I'll put them on the spot now and have them introduce themselves.
Martin Franke, Green County Cell Water.
Perfect. And I know I saw it, John. There he is.
I'm on Senior County.
Thank you, guys. So I just was thinking, John, you and I are working together on Phillips Ditch, drain that starts out in the country and comes into the city of South Bend. There's a neighborhood I showed some pictures of last time. It's got flooding issues, been underwater, been in the news a lot, and they hired an engineer to try to design some regional detention to prevent this. And basically the engineer said they provided a plan, it was really expensive, but basically with a big asterisk that said, this is all based on guesstimates about what the water volume is, and what would be really helpful is if we had some real numbers about what's coming down the pipe. And so we have purchased some flow monitoring units, some water level monitoring units technically, and we're going to work with the hydraulics just to convert those to flow. But John and I are going to be installing those. So they've come in now, and we want to get those installed probably 4 or 5 different places along Phillips Ditch that were recommended by the engineer, and see if we can't get a better design that helps the county be able to keep that neighborhood flooding. We do also have 3 units that we plan to install up in the north branch of the Elk Part upstream of the West Lakes. 3 locations that were identified in the study that we had done 2 years ago. One's on the Grange, Noble County line, right where just past Del Church Park, where it enters Noble County, and then a couple upstream in the headwaters. So,
Are you going to replace the one that's on Walter Lake? Is that one?
no, that one we still work with USGS, and I talked to the consultants to that study. They really, USGS one's kind of like the Cadillac, and they really encourage us to stick with that one. We're sort of testing these units out as an inexpensive alternative to the USGS ones, but until I think we have a good track record that shows they'll be just as good, we'll continue to keep supporting it back. We just got a renewal for our agreement with USGS to keep that Waldron Lake one on, and I've included that's included in our budget. So this would be in addition to those. Although he's not here today, but Steve Cords from the city of Wolcottville, which sits right on the county line, there in the Indian Lakes, just upstream of Indian Lakes, he has been reporting water level there on Little Elkhart Creek, where it comes into the lakes at a weir there. And I think that that's really close, if not the location where we can install one of these, so that we've got real-time data, and it's not just relying on Steve's estimates every week or so. Steve's been great, and he's got really incredible data set for a volunteer. But hopefully we can supplement that with one of these automatic units.
And
Sorry. go ahead.
Just kind of an update, not to back up, you kind
Yeah.
of put me on the spot.
Yeah, no,
Install the 3 new,
It's in that plan. One of them's at County Line, County Line Road, just on the North Branch. And then one of them is on Little Elkhart Creek. And the other one is up on, it's got a ditch name, I'm not sure, but it's the headwaters of the North Branch. I want to say would be the eastern part of the county, Dan. It's in that, it's in that plan.
What thing would it empty into?
Henderson Ditch, maybe, I think
Oh,
so.
where Henderson Ditch empties in Sylvan, and Sylvan empties.
Okay, then it's not, I don't think it's that. But
Sun Cracker Ditch,
it's not, it's
Pine
not.
Creek.
I felt like it is on that south. I'm not sure. I have to look at the North Range plan. I can look after the meeting.
Because I know you have, that there is a lot of water that comes from Kendall, all comes up the interstate ditch.
Yeah.
Then there's a sack rider that dips it empties into.
Felt like it was a little north of that for some reason. but- Sorry.
A little Elkhorn Creek, does that come out of Wokenville?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Starts up at Creek Lake.
yeah, got it, yeah.
And Little Oak Park is.
Yeah.
Is not
Same as,
Little Oak Park River.
right, yeah.
It's not even the same water.
I know. All right, I touched on the water level monitoring units, and I'll find out where ones will be deploying in Range County will be. But Jonathan, I'll be meeting soon to get the ones in St. Joe County. Any other questions on?
And then, those monitoring gauges,
Yeah.
is that, data that you're managing and just kind of get sent off to departments like USGS or USGS?
I don't know if USGS will look at it, but it'll be publicly available and it's real time. So you can go on its website, it'll actually be incorporated into, the map. Yeah. You can look right now, Kankakee River Basin Commission and Maumee River Basin Commission are both utilizing these same units. And the company that we work with, they actually do data hosting. It's our data, we own it, but they host it for us. And it's out there on the web. You can download the, spreadsheets, the raw data from them. Any other questions? That's all I've got on member partner support.
So still under old business, we'll move on to the water monitoring program.
Let's turn it over to Kate. Oh, sorry, there was one other one.
Okay.
Sorry about that. And I'll make it quick. I talk about this one every meeting, I feel like. This is our drainage benefit apportionment project. I touched on it earlier as a recommendation for the wetland task force. But just to update, we're still working with folks primarily over in the Range County, Zach Holsinger over there and their new drainage board. They are kind of like you guys over at Steuben, Jim, way behind. I mean, the assessments that are being collected are not enough to manage the drain. So they're opening these things back up, having public hearings to get some funds in these accounts. And what they're finding is that this method of apportionment, it seems to be a little more palatable to the landowners. I mean, no one wants to pay more.
We had one the other day that brought in $90 a year or something like that, you know what I mean?
$90?
Yeah, we gotta spend $1,500 on it, so
Yeah.
this year, so.
So some of them were set like 70 years ago, they haven't been touched since. So anyway, I was part of a panel, Zach and I both traveled down to Indianapolis yesterday for drainage school, which is put on by Farm Bureau. It's probably one of, other than the Surveyors Association, probably one of the best attended events for drain professionals in Indiana. People who sit on drainage boards, county commissioners are there. And we talked about this as a technique for mitigating the increasing rainfall that we're getting. We were on a panel with, some of you may know Jen Tank from the University of Notre Dame. She's done a lot of work in Kosciuszko County on tributaries to the Tippecanoe River. With two-stage ditches, Elkhart County has some, Steuben County has some, and she's done a lot of research on the effectiveness of them and found some really incredible results. Definitely has a water quality bend to the work that she's doing, but there's been quantity benefits as well that are pretty incredible. And then the lower maintenance costs are sort of undeniable what they're seeing. There's essentially no maintenance once you get it installed. What you guys have found in Elkhart County, but she was saying, depending on how high the benches are built in the two-stage, that makes it a really important piece. So a properly designed two-stage can essentially have no maintenance, whereas if the benches aren't designed at the right height, the trees can start growing on them, and then you have to have some kind of mowing or spraying program to just manage the benches of the two-stage. It really doesn't function. You're supposed to build at the right height, they stay wet.
That was a big part of what she did on the Shadso ditch in far western Kosciuszko County. It's several miles and within it, because the topography, there had to be a few different bench heights And she's been able to see those drastic differences in what the maintenance is required long-term, depending on the bench site.
It was a pretty cool presentation. So I was on a panel with her, 2 stages, sort of an in-stream technique for how do we manage these higher flows. But they had Zach and I talking about how can we help get folks to not send us the water in the first place. If the county doesn't have to manage it in the first place, how can we increase infiltration on private land and store more there? And the idea is if you don't have to pay the same rate breaker for your woodlot as you do for your row crop ground, or you don't pay the same rate for your hay ground as you do because more water is being soaked up in it, there's an incentive to keep it in grass, keep it up. So I did that, and then also participated in a farm field day, actually up on the Michigan side of the line with a couple of county drain commissioners up there on same thing, talking about better apportionment and how we can create incentives for storms. So that's the last thing. I just wanted to touch on that. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Always available to talk about this stuff. I think it's a real opportunity for us to get some water conservation at the same time, improving fairness with the apportionment. Now you can stop this to me and we can turn it over to Kate. Great. See if it goes there.
Great, thank you. So good morning, everyone. I just have a few updates on water monitoring, on what we've been up to this summer. So we completed year 2 of our biological monitoring program. So we have 12 sites that we've sampled shown on this map, 5 on the Michigan side and 7 on the Indiana side, where we're looking at macroinvertebrate communities as indicators of stream health. And we have really good retrieval rates, recovery rates this year with our samplers. We deployed these Hester-Denby samplers that are affixed to a cinder block, and we tossed them in the stream.
Picture one on the left.
Yeah, yep, right there. And we have, last year being the first pilot year, had some issues with getting all the samples back. But this year we had 100% recovery of all of the samplers, and with Brandon's help, we were able to do really thorough qualitative sampling as well as habitat assessment. So,
If I could, so Kate, one of the reasons we had a lot better success this year is Kate working on relationships with landowners and or community there. Basically we installed a couple last year and landowner came into the ditch, was like, hey, what's that thing? They pulled it out and they're like, I don't know what, someone threw some trash in here. And so they got rid of it. Where now Kate's got a contact. I think she gets cookies when she goes out there to get the samplers. Maybe not.
Hey, Katie, but kids here don't have a tag on that says, has IDEM's name up on it.
no.
Because I was on a ditch and I found 2 of them laying on a ditch bank.
Just like that. Really?
IDEM's tags. So I just come back in.
Was this recently? Yeah. My friend was up here doing samples. That was probably him. He works for IDEM.
Okay.
So yeah, they're hitting up all the pool water on the sites.
Where was it? Somebody took it out, so I put it back in.
That's interesting. Yeah, you should have tags, maybe not, but we did a really good job this year of hiding them and keeping them so they blend in. And some of we have to wait a while before we know what each stream scores in terms of poor, fair, excellent, good, in terms of water quality, because we're sending our samples to Midwest Biodiversity Institute, and we get to coordinate with when they're going to pick up those. But we were able to observe some species of interest and notable collections during our sampling. Shown on this slide, the guy on the left is an ogre-mite, which is a really the predator in aquatic systems. And when we see those, that's a really good sign that dissolved oxygen is looking good. And we also found, we don't collect them, but some live freshwater native mussels. One shown here from the Prairie River. So we actually had to paddle on the Prairie River to get to our site up there. So that was a nice adventure as well.
Kate, where do you find that? Because that's good.
This one, we found it a couple places, Turkey Creek, in the Grange, County, as well as Coldwater River, a few others, yeah. So, oh, and, North Branch of the Elkhart River, I believe. Yeah, so found quite a few, which is good. They're a little terrifying though. Not gonna lie. When you're
Got
not
some big
expecting,
pictures on it.
oh yeah, when you're not expecting them, it's whoa. So good stuff. And so I look forward to being able to share with everyone and the public just how the streams are doing once we get the 2022 data in.
How big are they? How long?
The hydrocarbon
Yeah.
Depending on, I mean, they could get maybe not quite as long as this one, but, and they can be pretty thick. They'll just, pretty terrifying, but really awesome. So we're happy.
I don't like snakes.
And
That's
there-
right.
And there's likely a big, that hurts.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, so it's good. They give you a run for your money. They make you work to get them. And also in terms of, John alluded to some of the, what was this, trash by stream? We actually, new this year, initiated by Dara, really, is doing this rapid trash assessment at all of our monitoring sites. So getting an idea of the accumulation of trash and breaking down by category major trash types along the riparian zone and in the stream. So we found some, this doesn't do it justice, but this is at Turkey Creek at Wawasee, one of our sites. And we sometimes find interesting things. Here's Brandon holding a sign that says keep out. So that was trash. So maybe you should keep the trash out of the street, but I don't know. And so just as an example of what an idea of how we'll present these data, and especially since there are other entities also doing this assessment, not just our program, looking at basin-wide, what is level trash. So from one of our sites, this is Turkey Creek, we found quite a bit of shattered glass and just a lot of small microplastics, styrofoam. A lot of our sites are accessed at bridges, so on roads, and throwing stuff out or don't realize that a single bottle actually turns into 21 individual pollutants right there and it shatters. So more to come on that aspect.
If I could, there's something that Jerry said about this. I knew Dar was doing it. I saw some of his interns working on this the other day. I would say this could be helpful for us. We actually get quite a few requests from different groups who are wanting to do river cleanups. Where can they participate in one? And if this is something that's being done across the basin, I would assume that we'd have not just information about what kind of trash is found in each spot, but maybe how much. And so we could direct people to maybe the dirtiest stretches of the basin for these cleanups.
I think that would be a really good use of this, this type of monitoring. In addition, what we've noticed too is a lot of our sites are public access. If we find trash there and these public access sites don't have trash bins. And maybe these data could be used to maybe motivate having some receptacles there, especially if we find, we have the category of tangled hazards and finding fish lines and fish hooks. I mean, that's two unique dangers to wildlife and so just a lot to think about from not only the aquatic health side, but also the public health as well. Especially we also look for mosquito sources, so tires that are in water, lots of different components into this. And just some other ongoing and kind of emerging projects. So I know there's a lot of text on this slide, but we did complete a water quality report for Elkhart County. So on their surface water monitoring program. So that report is now available as well on our website. I have on the next slide where you can find that. As well as I'll be diving into some more data this fall now to look at overall trends in stream health, water quality, looking at fish communities and macroinvertebrates, as well as we've got quite a good data set on legacy contaminants in fish, like PCBs and mercury, and then other other contaminants as well for fish in St. Joe. Also looking at E. coli trends in St. Joe River, and more recently, I'm helping out Steuben County, working with Chris, Alicia, and Janelle on trying to interpret all this long-term monitoring data that's been collected by the Steuben County Lakes Council, looking just how is water changing over time and trying to maybe reframe this to suggest a strategic water monitoring program that could help maybe aid in source identification studies and be able to take some action in the future. All that being said, we're looking at a lot of different types of data, different sources, so there's always challenges associated with that. So what we've been working on for a while is with our GIS consultant is putting together an interactive web map that will be coming soon. I'm meeting with that consultant tomorrow to see how the progress is looking. And then one other thing I want to mention with this web map is it's meant to be a tool that hopefully will help all of you with different aspects of projects you're working on throughout the basin, but also as an education tool and outreach tool for the public to learn about why is the watershed framework important? Just looking at, wait, I didn't know I had a stream by my house, so there's actually data associated with it. What do those data mean? And with regard, I didn't place that last bullet in the right location, but I'm working on making the code available for the first bullet point, this water quality report for Elkhart County, all the graphs and analyses. I'm working on making all the code available and data. So if anyone wants to, just to make the data reproducible, have that available to the public, to all of you. Stay tuned. And then, and here's where you can find the recent Elkhart County water report. It's on our website, on our web, the URL there. And then specifically, it's within that little purple box on our website. Or if you can't find it, you can just reach out to me and I'll gladly send you a copy. And then this is more in regard to increasing what we're going to do with Steuben County. This is a map of the current sampling scheme for all the sites that are stakeholder in Steuben County. A lot of their lakes, lots of sites on Pigeon Creek. And so I'm working on just some early graph looking at phosphorus over years. So some trends that I have yet to really dive deeper in and figure out what was happening. So phosphorus can be E. coli, dissolved oxygen, temperature, whole host of variables.
How would you expect what you create for Steuben to compare to what you did for Elkhart County?
So the plan right now is to use the same type of analyses as what is presented in the Elkhart County report. And I'm actually, next step is to compare water quality in each of those counties to look at relationships among variables too.
Are a lot of the same variables in the data?
There are. There's some overlap, there's some that are exactly so. And the sampling schedules are very different too. So that's another fine. So yeah, lots to think about here. And then finally, this is a snapshot of the web map as it looks currently. It is not ready to be public or to be guinea pigged yet, but hopefully very, very soon. So what the whole idea is we'll have a river basin map. We'll see the watershed and then a whole bunch of points on that map that you can click on and then see what types of data are available. And if there's a lot of data associated with one site, you can actually plot that, look at how that variable has changed over time. So we are working on that. We'll have supporting documentation and tutorials to go along with that. So with that being said, that concludes the water monitoring update. And unfortunately today, since I do have a class at 12:30, Brandon will have to take off school after 11 to make it class time. So thank you.
Do we have any questions for Kate?
And if I'm not able to talk have a really deep conversation with you if you wanted to chat. I'm happy to set something up for after, either phone call or video call, since I won't be able to stick around today.
Well, Kate, thank you. Appreciate you engaging the communities on all the data that they've already collected and come and make more sense of this. Is great. All right, I've got a couple things on water monitoring, or at least one big one, before we move on from this. And that is, we had a request come in from a lake north of Bristol, right on the state line. It's called Indiana Lake. And it's actually bisected by the state line. You can see it in this picture up there. It's just north of Bristol. It actually drains to Long and Baldwin Lake. It drains north. But it's sort of an interesting, there's a homeowner who's involved in a lake association there on the Indiana side. And apparently the Michigan side is sewer, but the Indiana side is all on septics. And she says she's pretty sure all the septics are between the house and the lake, so on the lake side of the house.
Yeah, I grew up on that lake, I can verify that.
Okay.
Especially
On the Indiana side, yeah. And so this lake is, she wanted to make sure to let you all know that this is a really special lake. Maybe John can attest to this too, and that it's really heavily spring fed, still has Cisco in it, she said. So cold water, just from the looks of it, seems to have pretty good water quality, but they have done some sampling out there and found some E. coli. Not the kind of numbers we've seen in some of these tributaries that we're working on, but certainly above the full body contact standard for the state. And I guess, I think she's got concerns about E. coli contamination of the lake on the Indiana side. And she would like to do some additional monitoring, but her lake association can't afford to do it all, and wondered if there was any opportunity for cost sharing us. She has been working with Sarah Peel, some of you may know by name. She's got a consulting firm that does water monitoring, and she sent me a proposal. There was a couple options. One of them was like 2,800. You have to remember, Kate, what the other one was, sort of scenarios. One used like underwater divers to do some sampling. I can pull it up actually if you guys are interested about the numbers. But basically she's saying these costs are coming anywhere from 2,500 up to 5,000. She thought they could afford about half of it, but wondered if there was any opportunity for help from the commission. I think the end goal would be if they find that there is E. coli contamination going on, they want to support a request or some kind of way to support their need for getting sewer extended up there, and matching so that both the Indiana and Michigan side both have sewer. I think that when some of our Elkhart County folks might know more about this, I know Bill's here and Carrie reached out to me. She's come to the commissioners before on this, and I think they weren't able to get like the 51% that they needed. I don't know how all this works, but she's got some concerns, and she's wondering about how if we can help with the monitoring together. I told her I represented to the commission. I think one obvious thing this brings up is something I talked to Kate about. Thank you. We've got probably 1,000 lakes that drain to the St. Joe River. I mean, there's a lot of them, and there's probably 200 of them with lake associations on. And I would guess at least 100 of them that are doing some kind of water monitoring. Our monitoring budget, if you look at it, we have fiscal year financials conveniently in front of us. We only ended up with about $6,000 left over, and that was probably because we weren't able to get the hydrologist contract signed in the last fiscal year. So that $6,000 really isn't there because it's spoken for. I don't expect the costs from our water monitoring program to go down for this year going forward. So, unless we're looking at a budget amendment, or if you want to try and put it under a different item like partner support or something, the budget would need to be amended, I think, to make room for it. And we would want to be mindful of how we are gonna address future requests that come in this kind of thing. Dan?
How much, I mean, I remember back in the nineties, we were taking our own samples of Walton Lake, taking them down to ALM labs for $25 a pop. I don't know how much that's went up since then, but still, I can't see why that would have, I mean, you know, if they want to look at the monitor along the lake, I would think 6 or 7 samples would be adequate, and if they're $100 a piece, I can't see how that's going to be $5,000. You know?
I think she was, the number she had, it was like $40 a sample or something like that, but
I don't see that you need that many samples to prove how much E. coli is coming. You know, unless you want to take it in front of every
cottage or something. Kate, go ahead, share. So Kate's got the proposal up that she was referring to.
Yeah, so there's 2 options. The first option for monitoring is to assess septic system inputs to Indian Lake, and that would involve shallow and mainly shallow sampling for $3,845, and we estimate no more than 30 samples collected. The other second option would be late in-lake water quality monitoring, where they would sample Indian Lake at the deepest point, following the Indian Lake monitoring protocol. And then that would be $2,250. And then the option C is general consulting with Orion consultants at their standard hourly rate.
So the Range County Soil Water has been working with the Range County Commissioners, Pretty Lake Association, the Health Department, and the Regional Utility District since 2019. They had a significant E. coli concern with an inlet to the lake. We did extensive monitoring in 19, some in 20. COVID sort of interrupted some of that effort. A little more in 21, and now we've done a couple in 22. The surveyor's office pitched in on that and did some things to try and ameliorate the situation as well. The Regional Utility District donated testing with their lab. Commissioners were in support of this. District was, physically helped pull samples and that kind of thing. The health department chipped in several times to do DNA tracking into the thing so that we not only knew there was E. coli, where it was coming from. Yeah, and it did. The first 2017 out of their grant, they had DNA ran 94% human. Since then, it's not been as high, but still, it's hovering in the high 70s. That's human contribution as opposed to geese or, birds or whatever.
Do you think, so I was just talking to Bill before the meeting, do you know if they work with on that source tracking, or Jared, do you know?
They started out with a lab. I'm
It's
working for memory. I
Like,
can't remember where the lab was they started with. They just switched to a lab in Michigan that they felt like they were getting better results.
It's Helix Bio Lab in Detroit.
okay. Do you happen to remember what the cost per sample was on that?
$760.
How much?
$760 per sample for source
Yeah.
tracking.
Not cheap, but well, the whole point is, I guess I would think there'd be local resources. I'm not speaking against helping them out.
Yeah.
But I would think that they investigated, the local resources. Health department, like things.
Hey, man, I'd also
Yeah.
throw out that, that lake does not have any public access on it. It's completely private lake.
I know this lake is not on the health department's like regular, in fact, I don't think any lakes are. I think it's all the streams, drains. Bill, do you happen to know what the, can you describe what this lake's like? What requests have been made of the health department, or what kind?
The contact that you have contacted us.
Okay.
They set up a meeting to kind of get us a flavor for how much interest there would have been to bring this for down.
Right, amongst the homeowners.
Yeah, and once that process started, of course, that
Okay, so the cost was high.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But it is a high value water.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the water quality there is really rare. Compared to others in the area.
And, just a quick note too, Cisco were recently put on the endangered species. Yeah, I think that just occurred last year. And that is this one of Indiana's five, I mean,
Yes, so Indiana's down, Simon's state down. 550. So I would hold Indiana where you get not already.
What are the main threats? I mean, is it temperature?
Yeah, the loss of the water.
Yeah. It's not like the fish are going to be harmed by E. coli, but the temperature and nutrients.
I looked at that list, and I know there's Cisco and other lakes that are.
Oh, really?
What kind of population density is on the hillside?
I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, there's pretty much the whole Indiana side seems to have cottages grown to me, what I can see in the industry. Once you get to the Michigan side, that west shore doesn't have any, but otherwise, it's pretty
Yeah,
well.
the southern parts, completely homes all the way around. The homes on the southwest side are more or less elevated, and I think there's some things that are back. So they're probably not a big source, but basically from the center of south all the way up east, or I'm sorry, yeah, east is, it's all flat right now, so they're almost up here, so.
Is the problem that there's no public access, is that the biggest problem?
Biggest problem for who?
The biggest problem for water quality on the lake, or the biggest impediment paying for it? For addressing it?
I don't, I mean, I think that from what I gathered through this,
Jurisdictional problem. Michigan side said, okay,
yeah,
yeah, and
Have to,
put on sewer.
right? Why can't you? Well, I guess that's what I'm asking simply, that why can't sewer be installed, what's involved?
Not gonna be as easy on the Indiana side. It's very low.
So it should have been built on the first place. Well, we hit that all the time.
I know, all those houses were originally probably cottages and they're seasonal, now they're year round, and the old story wasn't built with that, right? Then everybody thinks they are, that's what happened, but, on the Michigan side, they had more favorable,
Topography.
yeah, and, those people were more inclined to get it done. And they made it offer people on their side.
Cost was too high. And I think she's trying to, arm herself with data so that she can recruit more neighbors to want to be willing to pay that. I mean, I don't know.
There's lift pump stations too, I mean, that would, that elevation would be an issue, you know what I'm saying?
Well, just with the cost.
That's the call.
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, how do I ask this politically correctly? Is it a high roll of lake? I mean, are these expensive properties or are these middle class, low, what are these, what's that word?
there were cottages that they rented and.
A lot of work in that way too.
With, so like with the Elkhart County support monitoring program. Those stalking right now, I hate to put Bill on the spot again. Was it talked about to maybe look at this for additional site or the support monitoring at all? They can't do.
No, this, yeah, like, there's no particular inlet.
Right. The outlets on this
The
side.
Indiana side, there's just an outlet on the Michigan side.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is it's a special habitat that's so designated. It's unique because sharing state border. Ecologically unique. And never we see that feature. But looking at, like, do we have a process, procedure, or policy on survey completion of procedure also? If something like the association comes to see each other, how many we tackle per year? Please.
Yeah.
Before we agree to this, we should look at the policy procedure for regular mission.
I think in particular with the fact that we have, if you look at our special projects, a big budget line item right now for water monitoring, and we're using it. We're trying to be strategic about how we use that. If we're gonna incorporate something like this into it, it should be, I would agree, this puts me in a hard spot, like, I'm not trying to sell it to you guys, but I'm also not trying to tell this person, like, no, we don't have, it's like, well, you got it, we have to shuffle things around in order to make it work, but.
Do we need a motion to table this item to a study committee?
We don't need one, but we could, I mean, we could do that, we could,
I understand what you're saying, because we got, really, like, you can't fund everybody.
Well, what do you guys, I mean, to boil it down again, I heard a couple numbers. What do they want? I want $2,500, $5,000, $5,000,
No, I think 2,500.
$2,500 for now, for one run of testing.
Right.
I mean, maybe this is a stupid observation, time and again, living on a border county, we run into this, that drought water coming out of the rain cloud for those systems living in that lake don't care about the political subdivisions, which are a big obstacle to getting stuff like this done. And I lose, I don't want to sound like an anarchist, but I lose a little patience. Those fish don't care when they live in Michigan or Indiana. It's too bad that that's how it is, but I guess that's just how it is. Will one round of testing significantly help the cause of starting the process of cleaning this lake out?
First of all, this is the trouble for me, Mark. I don't know that the lake's dirty. Like, I don't know that it's bad or the Cisco are being threatened by the thing that this woman's concerned about, that is being on sewer or not. This is more of a human hazard from a swimming standpoint. And
I can tell you the south side, I grew up on that in the 70s, early 80s, well, in the 80s. And then I was just there less than a year ago walking on the south side there. It eutrophicated pretty significantly at that time frame.
yeah, so septics are not just an E. coli source, they're a nutrient source, no question. So,
That's not a warm it up, cause algae to grow. I mean, we've seen that over and over and over again in Green County. The installation of sewage disposal has significantly improved water quality,
Yes.
surface water quality, undeniably across the board.
Yeah.
And if it would really help, I'd be willing to make a motion to get them to figure out where we can get our $2,500 and get it started. But I guess I don't want to throw money at it.
well, I would definitely say if you're gonna do it, like, I would up to 25 and cost shared at 50%. So their skin is
They
in
got
the
some
game
skin
too.
in it, yeah.
Yeah, she represented herself on behalf of the Lake Association, but it was just a lady,
Have we heard from the Lake Association at all, or?
just her.
I was wondering if maybe they're, I mean, maybe the association, this is a
Yeah.
issue for them. Maybe they ought to
Yeah,
put together something that comes to us as a request, rather than from an individual.
Basic lines of where you're starting for
Okay.
your policy of approving cost sharing request.
yes,
Keep in mind that that's a baseline requirement, that you have to come to this organization as opposed to a random person.
that sounds like good advice. I think that sounds like good advice.
So just a little history. Brad Rogers, Member County. Before I became commissioner, the lake people came to wanted this solved, but they resisted a sewer project because of cost. So I don't know if that's changed now, but
But it sort of speaks to what I think Jim was bringing up and what Randy said, is that if this is one individual who's not really speaking on behalf of the Lake Association, that's sort of a problem too. Yeah, I appreciate that.
My experience with the association is typically when a topic comes up, they may designate a certain person to reach out, contact, to get something started. So she actually contacted me on behalf of the association.
Right.
Just have on the lake, because she might have approached the association. They said, well, you get us started.
Yeah.
And then also find out that lake association, if it represents the whole lake or if it's just the Indiana
Right, that's a
side.
good question.
Because that'll change, opinion on whether.
So you would think the Michigan side would definitely want them to do it.
The same discussion goes back to Dan's original, to put it to a study and,
To baseline, yeah, but exactly when you will and will not, because like I said, you've got a lot of lakes out there, and you have to be able to discriminate to be where you will and when you won't. So there has to be a set of principles that you're gonna use, criteria that you're gonna use when you make these decisions on the future.
I like what Brandy said, if you get a letter from the lake association, that's different than get a phone call from.
I would like to start there. Dan, I appreciate where you're going. I'm a little concerned about a couple of things. One, that, we'll see how we're going. We may need to go there, but initially, I'm a little concerned that may hamstring us at times in what we can do. Initially, I think just hearing from the Lake Association, whether that be a formal letter or ideally, I'd like to have them come here and present their request. So that you can all hear from them. And I'm not here advocating for it. Would I like to see sewer out there? Yeah, for sure, 100%. And if this can help, great, I'm not opposed to it. And I think that let's see if something like this leads to some support for them, and then where does that go? Then are all the lake associations coming to get in line, or then we're gonna need some kind of way to prioritize. But initially, I think just formalizing this request will be a start. So I can go back to her and say, we'd like to hear more. We'd like to make sure that you're speaking on behalf of the Lake Association before this. We don't have a policy for this right now. We've never been approached like this. And so we're not opposed to it. We need to hear from more voices. And does that sound?
So ask them what their end game is, because if they're just one-time study.
Yeah, I know. The end game is to get sewer on the lake. This, as far as this woman is concerned, that's her. Whether or not that's the Lake Association, I don't know.
can we move forward with consensus on that, or do we need more action, motion second, vote, all of this?
If all that is intended to happen is that more investigation is probably on with the Lake Association and whatnot, I don't think that will require a formal board action. See if they would just be taking, thank you, consent for the board to say, I think I need more information and I'll find out about that.
That sounds good to me. Okay,
Well, they have to have two sewer districts, one in Michigan and one in Indiana.
yeah.
I mean,
They already have one.
that they couldn't combine them.
Right.
Problem with that, though, in Indiana, I think the closest sewer in Indiana is quite a ways away.
So I don't know if we have to establish a lake system.
I don't know if Michigan allows Indiana's waste company to have their pipes around.
Illegal quantity. They do the feed fish.
In Indiana.
But it's Michigan rock.
Indiana property goes to Michigan for free.
I say I have a conservancy agreement to do that.
Same thing on sturgeons, owls, stuff like that, trying to get away from that.
We have exactly the same thing going on with Stone Lake. Right over the recreation complex. Part of that, it's, in Elkhart County, or that's in Grange County, that treatment is all handled through jurisdiction. It goes to Grange.
I think the thing is, when he said that they declined to have sewer systems put in,
Yeah.
that's the big tell right there. And now they're wanting,
It's
they're wanting something for free out of it to get that done. And they need to approach and say, hey, we're ready for sewer systems, and then start working.
That's the prayer permits.
I know,
When you
that's,
volunteers for sewer, I mean, it's usually a position.
but our regional district goes in and puts the sewer systems in, starts billing them, but they don't pay it. It takes them to court, they end up paying it.
Right.
One way or the other, they put that system in.
I can tell you the pretty good cost of that's gonna be pretty significant. Because they're gonna have to do water the entire south and west side of the lake, but
It
that,
don't matter to the regional district, and if they're worried about E. coli and swimming in their lake and the fish and everything, they'll get it done.
And listening, I think we got consensus. You know where you're going here.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it, the discussion. Sorry to bring such an open item to you guys without any advice on things, that's, I don't try to do that, but I don't know, I think it's a good start. Okay, please. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is easy. So, we have been following pretty much the same schedule since I started. I think the second year, me being here on first Thursday in the months up there, March, June, September, December. We've had a home here at the Schrock Pavilion for the last 2 years now. I've got the request in. They thought it was pretty likely. There was one, I talked to the Parks Department, just one asterisk around June. Sometimes our June meeting is an issue with the summer camp they host here, but she thought that she could get us a space potentially across the street if there was a conflict. There's the Dara, you know what's across the street, the Reef Interpretive Center, so that there was a room that would hold 50 people over there as well. So maybe we'd have to, but otherwise, we could choose to set it here. I always like to bring this up at this meeting because our next meeting is not until December, and so we'd like to know who could be at that meeting, where we're going, when. If no one has any issues or someone wants to, I don't know, take action to set our meeting schedule and location as, these are the things we're start with first Thursday. May I have any discussion on that?
Does this place have the PA system?
I do,
It looks like I gotta come speak.
yeah, they do.
I wonder if we can use that during these meetings. Sometimes it's already here.
Yeah, they have, I think it's a lot of it's the acoustics, which they've done some work on, but maybe, we could ask, I don't know if you want to pass that mic around or how we would look at, but.
I mean, I had a little correlate these things, I can bring. It's all in one ear.
Yeah.
But if you're right, you have to pass the mic.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Okay. Any thoughts on meeting schedule, or would someone want to make a motion to set it?
Text that. Second. Sorry, right.
Got active.
Okay, our first and second. Aye.
Aye.
Objections? Sign. Motion carries.
Thanks, Chris.
Next item, Watershed Leadership Academy.
So, some of you have been to it before. It's hosted by Purdue University. We have been sending at least one individual to the Watershed Leadership Academy since I started here, and even before me. I think it's been a good program. I know that the Friends of the St. Joe River Association have agreed to establish or sort of match us doing it as well. But we got the money in the education line item for our budget to continue doing this. I would like to, but I didn't know if folks had any thoughts. I apologize for not getting the folks who attended this year in. We used to kind of get them in here and hear from them about what their experience was. Two of them, or excuse me, one of them just left. Kate participated this year. We had a couple that showed up at the Friends of St. Joe River meeting last week and said that it was great. It's going back to 2 face-to-face sessions. Mark had the unfortunate experience of being during the COVID year where everything was virtual. They are
Good, nevertheless.
so I'm happy to take questions. We're going to make it short. I mean, basically what I'm asking for is authorization to send at least one individual up. I don't know, we're going to set a top on it. I got to make sure it's good for the education budget. I can't imagine more than 2, but maybe up to 2 people to the,
I'd like to move 2 if we can swing it.
we have good candidates.
They push it.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Anyway.
Is
So we have first and second, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, everybody. I'll get the, there's a application online, an announcement that I'll send out. We've had surveyors go, we've had soil and water folks go, we've had municipal folks go. It's a cool program. So let me know if you're interested in it. Obviously, members of the commission get pretty high ranking when it comes to if you have more than 2 people apply. So, we'd love to send a member.
Okay, moving on to other business updates. Members?
Just anybody here that knows, my boss, John McNamara, been county surveyor in St. County for 50 years. He was a county engineer for that. He has announced he's retiring at the end of this year, which is midterm. And he, side note, he's also getting married today. So, yeah, he's got somebody in mind that he's trying to get the political committee that he represents to put him in place after he leaves. The job's agreed, kind of volunteer his time as much as the needs can. If you guys have done. Yeah, so after this year, he'll have 50 years in this concert.
So you moving to St. Joe County, John?
Do you know the individual, John? Have you worked with them?
Yeah, but I'm not saying, yeah, it'd be really good, but, you know, the party has to.
Yeah.
He's working on that part.
The end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. John was one that I think he was the first,
Running surveyor in the state.
and I think he was the first chair of the St. Joe River Basin. Service chair of the Kankakee River Basin Commission.
You got first chair Kankakee, and I'm also first chair of the Kankakee and North River Basin. So, yeah.
Any other business?
Back to water monitoring, just a second. The Green County Lakes Council has long been Benton County's little brother, trying to emulate their success and had mixed results. Sometimes they've done good, and sometimes they've been a little weaker than that. They're back on the upswing, I think. They've met 3 times this year at Cargill, which is our district property. Got another meeting scheduled. They recently hired an executive director for their organization, sort of throwing the chips. I think there's 23 lake associations that are members. And so their attendance gets better, their enthusiasm and their desire to see improved water quality, I think, is strengthening and unifying, which is something I think is headed in the right direction. Our conservation district this year agreed to help them hold water monitoring samples at 19 different sites. And so we did that once, the end of July, beginning of August. We're scheduled to do it again, and I can't regret that. I helped pull some of myself and some of our staff helped pull some of the rest of it. They're testing the typical things, you know, DO, UV, turbidity, phosphates, nitrates, that kind of thing. Water temperature, you know, normal stuff.
Coli?
What's that?
You need coli?
Equal light, yes. They're working with the Dr. Jerry Sweet, I think they're probably they're an retired professor from Manchester University. And yeah, he went with us the first day. He pulled the majority of the samples. Third week of July or so. just an effort beginning, and they had done this years ago with volunteer people pulling samples from each lake. The director that they hired felt like for consistency's sake, she wanted the same people pulling all the samples, which is how we got involved with it. But, I'm looking for good results, and I hope we get some, good things coming out of it.
Everybody's known as. Just real quick, the soil and water spawn river and fish watershed, layer land treatment, watershed projects are in grant applications for both SWIFT funding. Additional funding, so thank you DNR for that, for this additional funding in the county to help agricultural producers get different. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Janelle.
Anyone else?
I'll just, one thing I'm not a member, but if I could, this is related to one of our members, Dara, who's not gonna speak up over there, reached out to me. So the Indiana Water Summit is taking place next week. I don't know if you've received invitations to that or not. It's kind of driven out of Indianapolis, but the White River Alliance, I think, is the main host, but it's pretty good participation from across the state. I've participated on a couple of panels last year. They had the directors of all the river basin commissions talking on a panel there. And there's a follow-up to that this year, and the organizer reached out to me about, having members be able to participate or be willing, and I gave her the officers, at least I gave her your contact information, and I know that she reached out to Dara. I don't know if she reached out to you guys. But I've mentioned it here before. We've been talking about it, I think, for almost 5 years because of what happened over in the Kankakee. But there is a legislator from the west side of the state, northwest side of the state, Mike Aylesworth, who plans to reintroduce a bill. He's tried a few times now, to allow for the creation of watershed development commissions, which is what the Kankakee River Basin Commission is now. And that one was sort of forced on them. The state passed a bill to transform them into a watershed development commission. He has taken some of the language of what they became and tried to draft a bill to allow other counties to come together and create one of these as their own. I think the big thing we've talked about in here, like the biggest reason why counties would want to do it is it gives that commission the authority to levy a tax against landowners to fund water. The exact language of the bill right now is drainage and flood control activities. It is being sponsored by Representative Dave Abbott, who is in our basin. And we used to be a member of this commission. And I know that, his intentions is trying to find a sustainable funding source for this kind of thing. I submitted some comments last year when this came up, things that could be great about it, but also some concerns about it. And those two legislators are going to be on a panel. Apparently Dara has agreed to go down there and just kind of talk about how our river basin commission functions, what we were set up for. And, I guess I just wanted to be still on your radar. We haven't seen the bill yet, but as we understand it, it's not like it would force us to do anything different. There would be an option for existing river basin commissions to convert to this kind of thing, but every single county, their commissioners would have to agree to do that. And that would be quite a lift at this point, given what's in the bill now. But I don't know, Dara, if you want to add anything about that. But.
No, I mean, I guess that presents a little bit of concern. Again, some of the language in the bill says that these watershed development commissions are made up of basically two people, one being county official and the other being that represent DNR. So we go like this commission could potentially be transformed from a 32-person board to a 2-person board. What may be representing the whole watershed, right?
I think in order to do what you're to say would have to be a seven. So in order for us to do away, it couldn't be one county that drove the whole thing, it have to be six. So what the dilemma could be is if one county within the St. Joe River Basin proposed to create a North Branch of the Elkhart River Basin Commission, Watershed Development Commission, the Natural Resources Commission would have a serious issue on their hands because they don't plan to have nested, as I understand it, there wouldn't be nested commissions. So we don't know what that would mean for us, but I thought where you were going, one thing it would mean for us is our representation as the bill is currently structured would shrink dramatically. I mean, we go from 32 members to 7. And those 7 members, although the surveyor is recommended as the county commissioners get to a point they want, there's some expectation of some technical skills to the person, but yeah, there would be yeah.
I'm assuming this is based off Kankakee.
It looks very similar to that right now.
I was on that board. And the way that works, they basically took, like 9 counties in that. They basically, one representative for each county, and then one person from the DNR. They're on the board. And then they also will create an advisory board that studies everything and then reports to that board. And there's one person from every county on that. I'm on the advisory board for that. And there's one more representative, I think it's DNR. If I remember right. So basically there'd be kind of 2 boards, one answer to the other board. But yeah, they took it down from probably over 43 or on that down to 8 voting, 9, 10 voting members. But on the other hand, they're also breaking in $2 million a year.
And the other thing is the requirement for a plan. So you have to develop a plan. Kankakee had a plan, cost $700,000 to develop, and that said what they would do. One of the big concerns is as you read the language now, because it's structured off the Kankakee bill, all the authority of the commission is restricted to the main stem, like of the main channel. So that's why that new one's called the Kankakee and Yellow River Watershed, because they wanted to be able to work on the Kankakee and the Yellow. But both of those were channelized, be like Pigeon Creek. So it's Pigeon Creek is Clement County, where the whole thing was declared a regulated drain that was straightened. In those on that stream reach, there could be a need for channel work, stabilization, remeandering, whatever. In our case, we have 4 counties. St. Joe River doesn't even flow through your county. So what does this mean for you? You're going to get taxed, but you can't do work. So we would want to, in order for this to work here, you have to be able to work upstream. You have to be able to work on the tributaries, regulated drain or not. We got to be able to work on the trips to make an impact on our system that our counties can appreciate. I think that's an important part of it.
And the other big thing is water quality. So if the commission is and that works well for the Kankakee, right?
So we will keep you posted on that, but I would encourage y'all, I think you can still, if it's interesting to you, and you want to hear these guys talk about the summit's going on, it's in Indianapolis for next week. So that's all.
I would recommend if you got a representative, talk to him first, because the way the Kankakee worked is, they didn't listen to anybody, they just created it. Yeah, and like Dara said, there's a lot of different resource issues and opportunities up there. Different. Yeah, make sure, like Matt said, they make it for the St. Joe River. Okay, that's don't boilerplate it.
So far, it's all just volunteer. Like it's nothing like the Kankakee. It looks a lot like the Kankakee, except the counties have to opt in, and that's not what happened to Kankakee. And talking to, drop the name, Bob Barr is someone we've had talk to us before. He's done a lot of work on the Kankakee, but he said even in the Kankakee, there's no way it would have ever got adopted if it had to be adopted the way this bill leaves it. It got done over in Kankakee because they forced it on, they made it happen. That's not what this is at this point, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. There's also people who want to see these things happen that say, we're gonna have to do it as a force it on thing, because otherwise it'll never get adopted. But I think in a basin like the Kankakee, where there is a clear need for flood control along the main stem of the Kankakee, that need was high enough, the state was able to do that, to come into our area and force something like that, force York County to tax its representatives or to force Cranch County for flood control in the St. Joe. It's like, no way. So, I don't know, we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Wrong to the direction.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet, mostly administrative stuff over this last quarter. I had to submit our biennial budget request to the state budget agency, and was able to do that. I wasn't able to get our reserve amount reduced on this last round, so we'll get a little bit, just change the percentage point or two. But that, and then so state funding and then local funding was the big thing over the last quarter. Hopefully you all received within back in June. Appropriation requests, we're all working on your budgets at that time. So we got those out. I don't think most of you have finalized your budgets yet, but it'll probably be happening soon. So I've been to a couple counties that made presentations, a few that I still would like to get to, but that was the main thing. Brandon mentioned AmeriCorps when he did his introduction. He's got some fun. There's an AmeriCorps program, and we got some cost share. So hoping to keep Brandon on through next spring for only like $7,000, basically, as much as we would have spent on it for the summer, keep going all the way till spring with the AmeriCorps program. So it's actually handled by NACOG, but he'll be doing monitoring work with Kate. So I'm kind of working with the representative there for AmeriCorps to stir that. And I guess that I'll just leave it at that for director's report. Anybody have any questions? I will say that I've been what I feel a little absent in some of your counties over the summer, and I hope to remedy that in the next couple of months, getting some great board meetings and slow forward. So I feel like that's the only way we know how we can kind of help, and so look forward to seeing you all on your own turf, not just here at Motion.
Any items before? Alicia has.
Where do we have, if we should go out, I know we would talk about it after this week. Greetings.
No, so I think what Alicia's referring to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a presentation, I think it was a year ago today, from Jack Whitman from Terra, who's done big central Indiana water study looking at the aquifer, and then Steuben County hired his firm to do an assessment of the aquifer up there, and he recommended that we kind of organize and sort of propose to the state that we be a regional water planning entity. There's no, I haven't done anything on that, or hasn't been any.
Is the mission to aquifer, does that send water our way, or does that go to Lake Erie?
Well, it's a groundwater. I don't know where it goes, but I know it goes, it includes land going over to Lake Erie.
Right.
And the steps going on in the village of Pioneer, there was Toledo's wells and instead of showing water comes to Toledo. I'm very interested to know what the quantity and the
What's the status of it? Is it, are they bottled water? Are they bottled water?
They're not bottled water, they were
They were what?
during the museum farming after the after the village and the whole area, they decided they were gonna do a different route, and they were gonna do sand farming on second here, just about 10 miles away from where I live, so it's a big deal, and then Ohio's making such a big deal out of it. Why is not economically that initiative? Because they were, it was gonna get high value well, that's pulling out hundreds of thousands of gallons. We're talking about shallow well, water consumption, so I think that was.
I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood what you said. So that the water planning region thing came out of some of that discussion,
Yes,
but
yeah.
so I will say that I had a call with Mark Bosch, who's DNR's groundwater person, and they've got a number of different wells up there. And he had some talks with Commissioner Lickey about this, because she was concerned. I got the impression that from everything they can tell, there's abundant supply of room. That's and I would encourage you to, if you personally are concerned about this, Mark is great. Have a call with him and you can at least see where he's coming from. He's worked with Jack on some things, but they are definitely separate, two different entities. And I think you'll get some good information about Mark of why he would say that. And I don't mean to put words in Mark's mouth, you should hear it from him. But I got the impression that he reassured Commissioner Lickey that it really wasn't an issue that she should get worked. That's the impression.
There is a company too that does,
Yes.
they do, like stitch.
Yep.
They've got all the current, yeah, I can't think of his name.
Tritium. Tritium.
Oh, yeah.
Tritium.
Get the name of.
I know he works a lot with DNR.
Yes.
He's a lot in Michigan too.
Yeah.
But they've got-
Gyms.
They got hundreds of.
Yes.
They do a lot of test wells and they're very well equipped to monitor regeneration after they specifically from irrigation systems, but this will do the same thing.
We're gonna be working with them on this Phillips Ditch project, so that's definitely a resource that happen. So, thanks, Misha.
If there aren't any other items for, do we have a motion?
From. Oh, do we? You're asking.
Ray was a motion to adjourn.
So I guess get first, second, and third,
Who's second?
so,
Who was those? Misha?
okay. Those, when I adjourn, those not. Adjourn, carried.
All right. Our next meeting, December 1st, folks. We'll be back here in this rock facility. Thanks a lot for making the trip.